coffee in the mess I eat. Take it off.
Good morning. We're going to call our meeting to order. I'd like to welcome you to our council meeting this morning. We would stand and have prayer by Councilmember Latham and, by Councilmember Reed, and pledge by Councilmember Latham.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you would like to pray with us this morning, would you please remain standing? Dear God of us all, we thank you for this day, a day, Lord, that you have made, a day that we shall all rejoice and be glad in. Thank you for waking us up this morning, clothing our right minds. We set this agenda before you today. Would you please give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to make decisions based on behalf of the city of Madison. Amen.
Amen. All our council members are present this morning. There are no minutes for review and our topics for discussion. The first one we have this morning is with us, Bob Hughes with our economic development. Bob?
Mayor. Good morning, Mayor and Council. Is this on? Can y'all hear me?
The
We-
green
we-
light's on.
Green light's on, so we must be
Just
good.
speak really close to it.
How about that?
That's good.
Well, appreciate the opportunity to come in and give you a little update. First off, I don't know if you've seen the latest DOL information, Department of Labor. The state's at 3.7 unemployment. Morgan County's at 2.6.
Oh, good.
So
It's
we're
improving.
doing well from that perspective. The bad thing is, all of my industries, you've seen all the signs, all the businesses are looking for employees. So they're now hiring. And so if somebody doesn't have a job, it's their fault. I hate to say that, but it is. We've worked about 7 projects since the first part of July. One of those is at Stanton Springs. It's a major project. I've spent about 3 visits down there and over 8 hours on the ground. But we provided the Georgia Safari Conservation Park truck to take a group of people around the site, and this is the area on the north side of I-20. We also have a couple of hotels, motels that are looking to build on that interchange at I-20 and 278. So that's moving along. We have 2 other projects that are looking for some of the land. It's really early to tell. One of the things that we've done at Stanton Springs is turned over some of the undevelopable land, which is the wetlands, to the Newton County Water and Sewer Authority. So they're going to be using it for green application. They'll be putting some water conservation, water recycling, and other things like that. They've got a wastewater treatment plant in that site. And so this is going to be all that low land that's back behind Facebook that will be made available to Newton County. All the projects that are looking to come to Madison are looking for 20 to 25 acre sites. We only have 1 industrial site that's active. That's owned by Sandy Sanford, and he's just reluctant to let it go. So I've got 6 folks that are looking for that 1 tract of land. The big projects that we've got that are owned by Rooker and Patillo, they're reluctant to subdivide. They want to hold it for the big project. We've had 1 project that came and looked at that one that decided there was a huge water user, but they've decided, I think, to go someplace else. They're no longer active and they're not returning our phone calls. We did close the bond validation on the Georgia Sheriff's Youth Home. So construction should start on that one before too terribly much longer. We spent a lot of time working on workforce development. One of the things we did at the end of June, we had a Connect Morgan group, and this is a project that's funded partially by the, the federal government and partially by Georgia Power Company. And we took 4 teachers and put them in 2 different industries for total immersion, and they got to understand what it's like to work in an industrial complex. They're going to take that, incorporate it into their teaching plan, and hopefully we're going to start filling the pipeline of potential workers through the high school. This is going to be an ongoing program, and it's something that is done in Greene County, in Walton County, Newton County, other areas around us. So we're kind of linked arms with them and are trying to do something to elevate the workforce in our area. I am on the Workforce Development Board, and we've been attending, most of the meetings have been virtual. They're running into the same COVID problems that every agency is running into. And the Northeast Georgia Regional Commission, Mr. Perriman, I think you were there not too terribly long ago. You go to those, but it also has an attendance that's not quite up to 100% like it has been for the same reason. We're continuing to work with the College and Career Academy. I'm board chair there, and we're continuing to work with them on trying to elevate what they're doing with our students and trying again to do some of the work-based learning and trying to help fill the pipeline again for our area. We did work with the high school to host a job fair. We had about 22 businesses or industries that were there. Unfortunately, we only had about 12 to 13 people that were active looking for jobs that showed up. In contrast, Gary, you were there, when Mannington held their first hiring job fair 5 years ago, they had over 300 applicants, and they were there until 8 o'clock at night. So we thought that maybe we could find that same type of thing, and it just unfortunately didn't pan out. And folks just, while they, I don't know how to put it delicately. We've got a lot of folks that work at some of our different industries that, because of the PPP that came out, all of a sudden formed LLC corporations. And so you have somebody working on the line that all of a sudden was in selling beauty products out of the trunk of their car, and they received grants of anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000. That's as much as they make in a year. And that may be helping drive a little bit of everyone's reluctance to come back to work. We are focusing on leadership development. The Chamber's got 12 candidates that will start a 9-month-long training program, and that will start September 16th. We're doing 5 sessions using the Fanning Institute, and we'll use 4 sessions using local resources. Maybe a tour of the industries, maybe a tour of the hospital. It's something that will help identify the opportunities that exist for leadership that you can step into right here in your own community. We are working with the county in an attempt to light up Morgan County. Central Georgia EMC is going to be running fiber to the houses, and this is going to be 1 gig speed in both ways on the internet. And so we've already committed to them. They're working right now in Forsyth, but we're trying to get them to put us second on the list. AT&T approached us and said they would like some of the ARPA money to be able to do the same thing. And they identified 8,600 living units in Morgan County. And of that, 79% are unserved or underserved. That includes some of the ones down in the south part of the county. And that's using the underserved, their threshold is 25 megabytes download and 3 megabytes upload. Of course, when you start talking about bringing fiber in, you'll have the option to buy 1 gig up and 1 gig down, or even 2 gigs up and 2 gigs down. So we're trying to work with all the different providers, and we're going to be meeting with Walton EMC is now indicating they might have an interest. And it's amazing whenever the federal government says, here's some money, we'd like for you to go do stuff, everybody gets interested. They're still looking at putting the cable in, which they call the middle mile. It's the last mile, trying to find somebody who will actually hook up and sell you the service. That's going to be a little bit of an issue. But we're continuing to work with them on that. We're still working with the Georgia Economic Developers Association. Again, most of that is being virtual, but we're still plugging along with them and trying to keep Morgan County front and center with our economic development. And with that, I'll hush and answer any questions y'all have.
So Bob, are the factories here, are they all of them pretty much still low in unemployment? Are they still looking for employees?
They're
or-
still looking for employees. They're running in, some of them are running into supply chain problems and that they're having a difficult time getting the raw materials to make their product. That's not the case with Mannington. Mannington makes their own vinyl on site, and they do have enough pellets and other things like that that they can use in the calendar to make the vinyl. But everybody's at full production. I mean, the biggest problem we've got is having warehouse space and trying to have things for, I was talking to David a little bit earlier, we got one industry that has plans to build an expansion. They're reluctant to pull the trigger, but they're calling me saying, I need some warehouse space, where can I go? And the answer is, unless you build it, there isn't any.
Bob, I have two questions. First question, I know that there are people that took the PPE loan because I've seen the list of people that said they did this, but they don't. Is there going to be investigations from the feds looking into some of that? Or also, and we consider the hospital, this is the second question, the hospital as part of our economic development, they're one of the largest, or the largest employer. How are they handling COVID right now? I mean, we hear that all the hospitals are overwhelmed in Georgia, but I don't know, have we had a report from our hospital and any overages that are going to Athens, and what are the mitigation?
Actually, I spoke with Ralph Castile yesterday about that. If you noticed out in front of the hospital, they have some tents and some orange cones. The state of Georgia is treating active COVID patients, one site and one site only right now, and we're the guinea pig. So they brought in, and it's Regeneron, I think it is, that they'll use for people that are active COVID patients to go in and get a shot to help them get better. So they are doing that. They reached capacity last week, but this week they're down. Of their 25 rooms, they have maybe 13 swing beds, I think it is. And the rest of them are people that are recuperating from surgeries or other type activities like that. So their COVID patients has dropped. Ralph thinks, though, that we might see another spike around Christmas.
Wow.
Bob, just you had looking for different sites, 25 acres or something like that. The city has that 40 acres out by the airport. We can't sell it or do anything, but we could do a lease, I do believe, on that property for somebody to come in, and then we could sell it later.
Okay.
Isn't that right, Monica?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my understanding in talking with David at one point in time, there were some restrictions on that being able to turn over.
We're probably a little more than halfway into that obligation. It's a 3-year no-sale clause in the deed, but I think we're a year and a half, maybe close to 2 years into that. And by the time anybody got serious about doing anything,
Yeah, I'd love to have that.
maybe a lease type structure with a close later on would work.
Okay.
But that land out there,
Yeah.
other than having to pump the sewer,
Yeah,
sets up really well.
Yeah, I know we can't sell it, but I don't think there would be a restriction if we did a land lease and somebody
Okay.
wanted to come in, and we need to investigate that because you could get rail there and everything else, so that would be a fairly decent site.
okay, well, good. I know of one person that's looking for a rail site with warehouse. The county also has 25 acres adjacent to the public safety building that at one time we thought we would be able to use, but they're still looking at their options about maybe using that as to build an administrative headquarters and consolidate all the county activities in that one facility. But nothing has happened on that, and so while it is on the table, it's not really on the table.
Bob, in reference to the 40 acres that Ed just mentioned and the 25 acres you referenced earlier, what is the broadband situation for those properties? How easy is it to access fiber here in the city for those two properties?
We don't really have an issue in the city because the internet is here and it's available. What happens though when you get outside the city limits of Madison, it gets very, very, very hard to
But
do.
they would have to run a fiber line to connect to the trunks that exist now in the city? Is that?
I believe that is the
Didn't we
case.
somebody ran it underneath the railroad for Rema?
Rema did.
Yeah,
They did.
a couple of years
Railroad
ago.
was a bit of a barrier, but I think they got
Yeah,
through
they got
that.
it.
I haven't heard any issues lately. Quick, one comment about the hospital, I understand from a report made at the Rotary this Tuesday, is that they're also going to stand up a testing site. The state is going to stand up that they were doing the infusions, the treatments in part of the facility, but the drive-through testing is going to be something the state's going to stand up there as well.
That's correct. And that you've noticed some construction going on back behind the hospital? And that's a warehouse that they're doing for their PPE, so they can get it out of the hospital and get it located. And they'll also put a little exercise track back there, so employees or patients will have a safe place to walk rather than walking around through the parking lot.
Good.
Another quick question about broadband in our EMCs. When Central was named as one of the leaders in that, taking the state money, was Walton, were they eligible for that and chose not to do it, or were they just not chosen?
That they chose not to do that.
As a Walton, as a member of that co-op, I'm
Yes.
very disappointed.
Yes,
in that
I
choice.
spoke with one of their board members, and that's why all of a sudden they're back talking, wanting to talk to
Maybe
Morgan County.
because people like me said, why are you not doing
Possibly.
it?
Mhm. Yeah, and the other part of it is, there's a new bunch of money. You know, what they were looking at before was a relatively small amount, it's gonna take about, AT&T says it's gonna take about $40 million from the state for them to come in. They'll put up 10, and they'll want us to put up a little bit of money to bring that forward. But with the latest infrastructure bill that's going on, the amount of money is just all of a sudden gotten huge. And so now there are a lot of people that are interested, Spectrum. Some of the other providers are now saying, me too. I think I might like to do that.
Yeah, now.
Well, I'm glad to hear that the EMCs, they've been leaders in rural electrification
Yes.
for 100 years now, and I was disappointed that didn't happen, but they're the natural ones. They got all the poles and the wires and the infrastructure, and AT&T's also been disappointing because they've been having people waiting in line for access to broadband for years.
Yes.
And
A-
have drugged their feet.
AT&T has repeatedly told me, we'll give you whatever you want. The problem is to get the industrial speed or the business, it's, $500 to $800 a month. And nobody can really, if you're a small business looking to operate out of your house, you're doing it for a reason, and that's because you got a limited
It
budget.
needs to be affordable.
And so they're trying to move forward with something that's going to put everything within the $50 a month range.
I wonder how Skylink will compete with that. I mean, that's.
That's one of their competitors.
Is that Elon
That's
Musk's
the
thing?
satellite.
Yeah, and we've already got folks that have put their money up. Our county manager is one of them. He's already paid his deposit and says, I'm ready for it whenever Elon gets it up where it's running. Anything else?
Thanks, Bob, for that.
If not, I'll plan to come back in about a quarter, and we'll give you a new update.
Great report. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for the update. Neighborhood walkthrough. We know that our GIC team, along with our GDA, has received probably $1.1 million in grant money to rehabilitate homes in the Canaan area. And I don't know if all our council members have had an opportunity to see the houses that have been rehabilitated and what's going on in Canaan. And I would like for us to do a walkthrough at our next work session in October. Maybe the weather will be a little bit cooler, to do a walkthrough to see the houses that have been rehabilitated with this money and also maybe end up over at the Canaan Crossing where they're building the new apartments. I just thought it'd be great if all the council members could see what's going on.
Yeah, there's been a lot of great things done over there. I drive through there just about every day, so looking.
I actually have constituents that call constantly and are really appreciative of what's going on in Canaan.
I think it was a couple of years ago, somebody sponsored that walkthrough. I know a bunch of us went. I think it might have been the planning department, I think.
Probably Gig
We saw a lot of the
Yeah.
houses that have been rehabbed and ones
Yeah.
that were on the list. It was really helpful to see what we can do
Right, right,
and have done.
right. Okay, thanks. So come with your walking shoes on at our next work session.
Got it.
The America Rescue Plan update. We know that it's time for our city to have a discussion about, we met with Deke, I think the team that Chris brought in probably the first part of the year last year, and they gave us some ideas, but I thought maybe we just need to have a good discussion among our council members about this money, along with probably DDA and Main Street Director. This money will be coming down, some have already came down, and let's just have a discussion about how this money can be utilized. Prioritize the money, and we could just have a special meeting just to talk about that, you know. Maybe this is September, we can do it late this month or early in October, but let's just have a special meeting to talk about this money that's coming down.
Did they gave us a wrap-up document about what we discussed in those work sessions. Okay, that way we can kind of go back. 'Cause I don't
Right.
remember, I mean.
Right, we
it's-
could go back, right.
Well, you set up broad categories. I
Yeah.
think those need to be, some were longer term, some were pretty low hanging fruit.
Okay,
But staff just is not the vehicle to decide how to spend that money. We would do that.
Right.
gotcha.
And council's got to direct that.
So if we could do it later this month or earlier, would any council members have any quorum of meeting, maybe the last week in September? Monday, could we just do maybe a Monday morning meeting? Actually, what's the last Monday in September?
Last Monday in September, September 27th.
27th. Is 27th good for everybody?
I'll be out of town that week.
All right. Can we bag it up a week?
Then that would be the same day as so the 27th is the last one in September, and the first Monday in October would be October 4th. It'd be the Monday following your work session.
Okay. Is October the 4th good for everybody? Monday, October the 4th, you put that on your calendar, you would remind us,
Now, do
Ashley?
you want an 8:30 meeting on Monday or maybe a 10 o'clock meeting?
Those who are working, like, what's good for you guys who are working?
Like morning.
Is 8:30 good for you? So 8:30, it's good. Okay,
October 4th.
October the 4th.
I just got a text, Mr. Mayor, asking council members to try and be sure and use their microphones. Some people online are having trouble hearing some of the dialogue.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Rental assistance opportunities, Councilmember Reed.
Yes, and we just said October the 4th at 8:30, am I correct? For the meeting? Okay, just writing. I am wondering, we just talked about the money that's coming down the pipeline, so I guess we need to sit down and talk about it, but we have so many people that cannot now afford their rent, and I was wondering, do we have any opportunities for rental assistance, and what, does anybody know of anything? In the last, at least the last week or so, I've had people to come to me, to Spread Love Ministries, I should say, to Spread Love Ministries and ask for rental assistance. So I've helped at least 4 people pay rent, get in hotels. We actually have people coming in from Greensboro and from Putnam County, where they've shut down their hotel that looks similar to our Budget Inn, and they're now trying to be housed here. So I'm trying to see if we have anything, any type of rental assistance.
I don't think we do through our
Opportunities or
city,
anything.
maybe Monica can
Thank you,
answer that
Monica.
for us. Yeah.
So for those of you who are not aware, the Georgia Department of Community Affairs has a link on their website I think it's spelled out, GeorgiaRentalAssistance.com.
Went to that last night.
You actually can go online and it will vet you, whether you are a renter or a landlord, whether you're eligible to receive state assistance. And what we've discovered is, working with the GIC team, we've discovered that several people don't either have internet service or maybe don't have the skill set to kind of go through the state site. So anything you could do to sit down with people and help them go through. The GIC team has talked about having not an open house, but a kind of a sit-down training session where we're available for a couple of hours for people who maybe don't have internet at their home and want to come in and need somebody to walk them through the website. But you go on, you click, and then it'll ask for certain pieces of information. It's not just a click and they send it to you. You've got to show past due rent notices, or you've got to show utilities getting cut off, or there's a demonstration quality that goes with it. So it's not a free-for-all, kind of like the PPP was. So anyway, but it's GeorgiaRentalAssistance.com, and there is a link portal. Now, I don't know how easy it is, and I don't know how many people have been approved or not approved. I don't know the parameters of it. I just know that that's where all the GIC teams in the state are being told that's where to funnel people that need rental assistance.
Okay, I looked at that last night. And Eric, what were you telling me earlier about the county?
Just a comment from someone related to the commission that the majority of the money they expect to go to support landlord losses. And this particular person didn't think a lot of it would be going to support expenses for tenants.
Eric, talk closer to your mic. Talk closer to your mic.
Brother,
I don't think his mic's on.
just that someone I know with the county said they were anticipating most of their I guess rescue plan money would be going to offset losses for landlords, and they didn't anticipate as much of it, or a smaller portion going to support tenant losses.
So that's the county money, not the
That's the
state
county.
money. Mhm. And I think that might be, and I don't want to speak for them, but everything I'm reading says that most of the rental assistance is being offered to tenants, and so therefore there are a lot of landlords that are in the lurch. They're still having to pay that mortgage, but I can speak from that position, having someone who hasn't paid rent in 7 months. I mean, we're still paying the mortgage, but we've got someone who hasn't paid. So
Right.
there's more than a few landlords that are in that cruxy
I
position
don't
too.
mean to minimize the negative impact on small landlords as well, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but my understanding, the state site's more geared toward
It's landlords or tenants. I went on last night and looked at GRA, and you can put in the information whether you're the tenant or the landlord. Because I searched all week, because it's been really, really a lot of people calling. And I know that we're not rental assistants, but I'm looking for opportunities to give to them.
Well, have you talked to the Baptist, Jim Neesmith? They have I think it's like a one-time thing, though. It's not like
So I'm looking for sustainability. I'm not looking for a
Yeah.
quick fix.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The
So I've
Baptist
talked to the
church only
churches.
pays for one night,
Right.
and one night stay at a hotel.
Uh-huh.
That's,
Right.
and it's at the motel.
Yeah.
They're usually
Right.
1 or 2 nights, and then they help, it's more to help the homeless to
Right.
their next step. It's not interim rent. The only other assistance we know of locally is St. Vincent de Paul at the Catholic Church.
Okay.
They actually fund folks that have that one-time or problem with utilities. They'll help that gap closure.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I know, Karen.
Thank you, Monica. Just looking for more opportunities to give to constituents, to give to people that are even outside of the city that come in to our city, just what direction to go in, and looking more for sustainability.
So I guess, Councilmember Reed, the money that the tenants are looking for, that money would go to the landlord. It wouldn't go
Yes.
directly to the tenants, would it?
Right, that's what I'm looking for, to go to the landlords.
Yeah.
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 So,
And we
if
know it's a
anybody
need.
knows
It's
of
a
it,
need. I think.
It's a really big need. We actually have rental, I think it was a lady talked to me yesterday, and I don't want to call anyone's name, but they're going up from she's going up from 600, while I was at the hotel on Monday, paying for a family that came from Greensboro, that I would not put in the budget in, because most people put everybody in the budget in, and people don't need to all be in the budget in. So I took them and put them in another hotel, and the lady at the hotel was talking about her rent going up from $600 to $1,000, and she's working at a hotel.
And if they stay there too long, then we are not able to collect hotel motel tax. So
Right.
there's a issue.
That's right.
With that we
That's right.
don't want those to become rental
Well, that's
places.
what's happening
and-
now, though.
Yeah, they're, anyway.
Okay, thank you,
Okay,
Councilman.
well, thank you.
Sure. Councilmember Hodges?
So on that note, we had discussed, and I'm not talking about this, where sometimes a lot of our tourism activity percolates in CBB, and this short-term rentals kind of put them in a awkward situation because of the hoteliers, I think, will be not in favor of short-term rentals. But I went to a meeting at the Georgia Tourism, this was pre-COVID, where Savannah and Charleston both embraced short-term rentals with the hoteliers, the moteliers at the table, letting them craft the legislation that allow people to utilize their properties for Airbnb. It's highly restricted. If people, I know Savannah uses it. I've stayed in an Airbnb in Savannah and in Charleston, and I think if we cannot just start opening the door just a little bit on this, I think we're missing some opportunities because tourists travel differently. The people that will stay at the James Madison and aren't necessarily the people that are gonna do girlfriend weekends or wedding weekends. I think we're missing the opportunity to create a even more rigorous tourist economy, and also allow people that have these houses that are hard to maintain to make some money to cover property taxes, because even some of the most rundown houses in the historic district, their property taxes are running $7,000 to $10,000 a year. I'm just trying to be creative, and I would like to, I don't have much longer on this council, and I'm grateful that Ms. Wagenhauser is going to be my replacement. She'll do the city very well. But I would like in my last few months to maybe start that conversation with maybe doing something outside of the CBB, because I know that puts them in a difficult situation. Their job is to put heads in beds. That is their mission, right? And I think people feel threatened by short-term rentals in the city. I think we all rise with the tide, and I think there's enough business, and it's a different traveler. So anyway, I would just like to ask for us to research what Savannah and Charleston, I know we've talked about this before, but Savannah and Charleston are doing it and doing it effectively, and including the hoteliers and moteliers at the table to discuss this. So I don't know how we would go from here, but I think we're missing some real good opportunity here.
So why don't we talk about this at our next work session?
Okay,
Just either we could talk about it on October the 4th, if we have enough time from the,
Okay.
yeah.
And maybe in the meantime, I know I have a copy of the Savannah law, and I think we'd probably, since they're in Georgia and they're a historic district destination tourist, and that's kind of our thing, maybe perhaps we look at theirs and see how they've been able to control it, because at first it went crazy, and then they had to back it out, and then they have certain areas, and then if you violate these rules, you lose that ability to do your house. But I just think it's kind of, we're missing out. So, okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Conversation worth having, okay, thank you.
I think, Mayor, just to support Chris's idea, I think what I support is really starting this conversation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good arguments on both sides. I know a lot of our local hoteliers, a lot of residents won't like it. There will be potential negative impacts. On the other hand, I see a lot of on the upside too. I think we need to start the conversation and let everybody that has a vested interest talk about it and see where we want to go. Because I think there's real options that could be good for Madison if it's managed properly, and that's the challenge. So
And
I'm
we
glad
collect
we talked
the
about it.
the occupancy tax too. So.
I agree.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Hey, Chris, could you, between now and the next work session, get the information and get it to us so we
Sure,
can look at it?
absolutely.
Because if we're going to start this, I don't want to come into a work session and not really understand what's
Yeah,
going
and
on.
like Eric says, there are reasons not to have it. I'm just saying, I think there's a balance, and if you can control it well enough, then you can have your cake and eat it too, and it doesn't affect the moteliers.
You know, to Ed's point, I think what would be really helpful, Chris, is to find maybe a smaller community than Savannah that has an ordinance that might be a good model.
I think Athens, I
think
mean, a lot
Athens has
of,
something, but I know I've checked in the other day, Covington,
There-
for example, I don't believe they allow it because
Yeah.
it's centered on a couple of what to me appear to be like B&Bs.
yeah.
But
I-
anyway, if we can find a smaller
It might be
city
out of
model,
the, it
that'll
might be out
helpful.
of the Georgia. I don't know if Helen or Dahlonega or any of those have any, but I'll look into it. I'm happy to research it, so.
Okay.
Maybe Aiken, South Carolina.
Yeah, that would be great, yeah.
Okay. They're pretty.
Okay, Chris, you again, Main Street traffic and
Bef-
mitigation efforts.
So, I think pre-COVID, I think, Rick, you might have been at this meeting, but we met with the DOT in David's office about trying to mitigate the truck traffic coming into town, and we kind of came up with a solution that they were willing to explore, which I found to be, pretty exciting with DOT, but, David, if you remember, we had talked about maybe a traffic circle or looking at a traffic circle or some kind of bottleneck, something right coming in where the yoga place was, the liquor store, something that would deter trucks from coming into town, would conquer or address the pedestrian issue, because at that time I think somebody was killed. This was 2 years ago, and it was like this it was like this great compromise of how to keep trucks out of town, solve the pedestrian problem, and have something attractive coming in from the business district right into the historic district. And they were amenable to helping us come up with a solution. Were you at that meeting? Okay. This was, do you remember it, don't you, David? Kind of.
I remember us talking about crosswalks out on the corridor.
Yeah.
Talking about divided medians.
That's right.
Safe zones.
Yeah, uh-huh.
All of that, but all that kind of got kicked back.
But with COVID, I know, but I'd like for
But
us to
I can't
kind of.
remember, I don't remember anything about mitigating trucks.
Well, I think
don't
we-
remember I remember the last thing we talked about that was a east side, northeast bypass that DOT would have on.
Yeah, I
Don't put
think,
anything on a list and put 2036 out there and buy it.
I think the solution, I had said, why can't we talk about maybe a traffic circle? Because, they're putting these traffic circles everywhere. Covington has them, and they're attractive, and they were like, that would be something that would keep your trucks from
Yeah,
wanting.
I think that
come
was
into
at
town.
the intersection of Spur 24 and Edenton Road.
This was at Eatonton Road and at the
North Road.
entrance, no, it was at the entrance to the, it was where the yoga studio, where your brother-in-law's place is. Doing something there.
Closer to Cox.
Yeah, and I think there was another thing, something about taking it from, something that would keep the trucks from wanting to come to town.
Well,
And
they-
maybe a traffic circle would do
It's
it.
been about 2 years ago. I was at the
Yeah.
meeting because that was when the man got killed right in front of my salon.
Yeah,
Got hit
That's
trying to
right.
cross over to Ingalls, and we did talk about a median in the middle. I can't remember the traffic circles, but I remember we talked about a median in the middle and putting crosswalks and maybe more lights there. I don't remember the traffic circle.
Was that the meeting with Jamie Williams?
Yes.
no, this was not, then I wasn't at that meeting with Jamie Williams. Anyway, there was a conversation about some creative way, and traffic circles do have that pedestrian element, and, anyway.
But we've been
We
talking
got to
about
do
this for
something.
years.
We just kind of kicked that can on down, and it's,
But I
people
thought-
are really complaining about the traffic and the noise.
But
and-
I thought that we couldn't stop these trucks from coming through town.
You can't, but
You know, you
but
can't.
traffic circles or anything like that would
Would slow
deter
'em
them.
down.
They'll,
Slow 'em
they'll,
down,
they'll,
yeah, that's
it will slow them down, and they'll say, oh, we're better off taking the bypass.
Well, if they just start pulling the trucks over, they're coming through town and doing safety checks on them, they probably go around. But unfortunately, they sit out there on the bypass and they pull those truck drivers over and they go through their trucks and they always find something. But if they did that right out here where they came through town, maybe they'd go around. Some of them are coming through town to get away from that.
Really? Oh, that's not
Yeah. I just had a constituent
Exactly
to
right.
call me that just moved to town. She's only been here about 2 weeks, and she called me about traffic this week, about how loud it is on North Main Street early in the morning. And she wants police to come and check on traffic. But we had this conversation maybe last year, well, it could have, 2 years ago now.
It's just been ongoing.
And
Yeah,
coincidentally.
that's pretty
just
much
in-
what I told her.
Just in the last week, I've had 2 communications from citizens, one on South Main, one on North Main, talking about speeding and truck noise. So I've just, as a heads up, I've asked them to kind of hold off till maybe the public comment period of the next meeting. So I'll
coming.
get something out so that the police department can realize that will be talked about our next meeting.
Yes, and that's exactly what I told her, so she'll be here next meeting also.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Chris.
I mean, anything we can do just to kind of address that.
Okay. Budget amendment, Finance Officer, Stamps.
Yes, sir. This is a year-end budget amendment for fiscal year 2021. And the summary that is on the front lists items that are resulting in a change of the budget on the original budget. Some of the increases include a new server that we had to purchase, the municipal building roof replacement, as well as the rent for the temporary city hall at 285 Old Main. Also, the creation of the code enforcement position. And the SPLOST has mainly the tennis court resurfacing, and the capital projects fund is increasing for the land purchase for the airport. And if y'all have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Is the report that Ashley sent out under updated documents, is that different than what you had sent as part of the package, the attachment? There's so many pages, I couldn't.
Yes, I published the packet and then got an updated attachment
Okay,
for
so
the budget and
The one in your
the
email
COVID
is what we're
protocols.
talking about.
What's that?
Yes. There was one small change after I originally emailed her, where the capital projects fund needed to be increased a little bit more.
Thank you.
So that total is $740,000.
And then you, coincidentally, you just emailed our kind of remarkable
Yeah.
sales tax information. Did you want to talk a little bit about that good news?
I don't have that newspaper in front of me, but I emailed it out early this morning, for numbers through August 31st. And so 2 months into the new fiscal year, sales tax is already 51% from last year.
Wow.
Good.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, I was meeting with the county manager the other day, and he mentioned that also, that it was coming in at like $500,000 a month, wasn't it, or something like that?
Well, that might be for them.
It's coming in for them because
No.
they get the lion's share of
No,
it.
maybe it was-
Our check ain't quite that big.
Yeah, I truly do understand that, and I would like to get more of it since we provide all the utilities, but it is coming in, so.
Yes, and of course, that also affects SPLOST and T-SPLOST as well. So those numbers are up as well.
so just for the 2 months of, the first 2 months of the fiscal year, looks like July was up 41% over the previous year, and August was up 62% over the previous year. So we're off to a really strong revenue start as far as sales tax goes.
And Mr. Mayor, this kind of adds credibility to what Chris is talking about also, because we have some industry and stuff here, but we've always been tourism. And the more we can get people coming in here and spending time, and, you know, you drive around, you see people, I don't know who they are, they're in visiting and walking around spending money. So any way we can continue to work on that, to bring that type of business here, Chris, that's why I think it's important that we look at what you're talking about.
Thank
You know,
you.
and what a lot of local residents don't think about it is is the benefit we get by tourism by having a broad variety of retail opportunities for us as residents. I mean, a town of 5,000 people is not going to be supporting 5 good restaurants
That's
without
right.
tourists, I can guarantee you that.
No.
Much less other shopping opportunities. And that kind of is ever kind of underestimated in that value, I think.
Okay. Thanks, Karen. Appreciate
And
that.
the public hearing will be at your next regular meeting, September 13th.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. COVID protocol. And David, can I call Karen up before you give your report?
Karen used to do it. She put this together.
Okay, Karen, if you would.
Oh, you mean that Karen? Which Karen?
Karen, well, go ahead with this. I was gonna let Karen come and talk about, the activities supposed to be going on in the park, before you, yeah.
Karen number one.
We got-
Mr. Mayor, with all due respect, we have to do Karen R and Karen S now, 'cause we don't know which one you need. And I actually wanted to ask for Colleen to join me, and I was to text her when we were ready for the discussion. So do you mind if Karen
Sure, go ahead.
S goes first while
Sure,
I
no
get
problem,
Colleen
sure.
on?
Okay, Karen S.
So what we have done is try to lay out some guidance for the City of Madison employees when it comes to being exposed to someone who has COVID. And so the first part of this basically is protocols that, and guidelines that we can go by when employees are exposed to COVID, whether it be another employee or in their personal life. And so then David and I talked about different incentives for people that are vaccinated. And so we've listed out 4 different incentives. One will offer time off to get vaccinated, as well as vaccinated people can receive up to 8 hours comp time, just a day off, call it a holiday, whichever. As well as if vaccinated employees test positive for COVID, then the city will pay administrative pay up to 5 days for them to quarantine at home. We've also added a monetary incentive to where vaccinated employees will receive a one-time payment of $200. And so we're hoping that people will get vaccinated. We highly encourage. It's not mandated. As well as employees have to submit documentation, which is basically their vaccination card, to HR. We'll file it in their medical file. It'll be strictly confidential, to be able to get these incentives. And then as we've also added, because there's been question, that if you've tested positive in the past, can you still be eligible? And no, it will require actual being fully vaccinated, not for the fact that you
Not the antibodies.
right, not having antibodies.
I think it's a good incentive for city employees, but how many do you think they're gonna take advantage of this? I know the governor is what allowing the state employees to be out today to give them some incentive of taking this vaccine. So if they don't take it, what will be the consequence?
There won't be. We're not penalizing. There's no penalty.
I would say that, and I appreciate Karen, we talked about this, she put this together, it has a lot of CDC guidelines in it as far as exposure and as far as protocol to keep, and the city employees have done a good job, supervisors have done a good job, they know what the drill is as far as safely working, but it always requires reinforcement. I did a rough survey, we may be 50% vaccinated now. What's amazing is one department in the city, all but one person was vaccinated, and then another similar department, only one was vaccinated. So I don't know that it gets down to leadership, but I've expressed frustration. I'm at my wit's end about it. I'd probably say too much. But this is step one. I would say this is not the end of it. If other measures, if weekly testing, if you're not vaccinated, we may do that. Because like I said, this hospital is standing up testing, and it'll be at no cost to the employee. If we have to get down to weekly testing, we'll do that. So
What is the, I mean, I know that there was vaccine hesitancy initially, and I can understand that, but now that Pfizer is
I can't-
FDA approved, what is the block if it's free?
I can't speak to
No.
every individual's.
I mean, are you
they're free to-
hearing like a,
They're free
is
to
there
choose and what goes in their body. I understand all of that,
Yeah.
but with, I
should there be like an education protocol or something that's like, hey,
We have.
there's an unvaccinated or not in the ICU, but, I mean, the unvaccinated are in the ICU, but,
CDC does have a flyer that when we submit or distribute this to all the departments, we'll include a flyer from the CDC that gives the statistics that way, as well as information.
is there like somebody
on the
we could bring
vaccines.
in that has been in ICU that is like, I was one of those that didn't, I mean, I see that
Scared
every,
to vaccinate.
I've seen
Yeah.
that every
Frightened
day, like
into
people that are
vaccination.
just saying that, I should have gotten the vaccine. But I mean, instead of, like you're incentivizing people to do it, right? But also maybe educating them on what, I don't know, I'm just trying to be creative, because I think storytelling also is a good way of
I think we're going to
convincing.
continue to encourage and to incentivize and to, as this thing continues to wax and wane and affect us all and affect how we do our work and how we do the people's work. I'm trying to remind individuals that, aside from the responsibility to themselves and their family, but they work for the public and they got a responsibility to the public as well. So thinking a little bit outside of our little bubble might help, but just encouragement. We're not trying to beat anybody down. But this is becoming kind of the norm now to do some incentive things, encourage, and then we'll treat this as step one and see how it goes.
And
We'll
we-
track the numbers.
We looked at other municipalities and what they were doing, and took some of what they are doing, incorporated into this. Now, the first part, as far as the exposure, it does guide or put the employee back to a healthcare provider. So we don't make decisions that are outside of our realm, that we rely on a healthcare provider for that as well. And then, of course, we're not penalizing anybody that is not vaccinated.
So this is not a GMA-generated model, it's something you got from a number of different communities, is that right?
Correct. We looked at different areas, different businesses, different municipalities, as well as, of course, the CDC guidelines, and put this together.
Yeah,
based
it
on
looks
all
very
that.
good. The $200 incentive bonus, that's retroactive, is it not, to anyone that's
Current.
vaccinated 6 months ago, for example?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And if they are not currently vaccinated and they choose to get vaccinated, yes, they will, but they have to be fully vaccinated by October 31st. That gives them 2 months to get
It's a good
vaccinated.
incentive.
Right.
Yeah, I think Eric and I
It's
was
really
on
good.
a conference call this week with GMA, I think it were, and they was talking about how bad it is in the state of Georgia.
Yes.
It's tough,
really bad.
how bad it is in the state of Georgia.
I've been talking with CORE, which is a vaccine company. Well, they actually were the ones that went out when Haiti got hit the first time to help Haiti. And just talking with them about, vaccination at churches and different places, and seeing if I can get them to come, to the city. So,
It's tough. Okay, thanks. We hope this is gonna give the employees some incentive to do the right thing.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Okay. Karen R.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and
Yes,
council.
ma'am.
And I'll start. We've been very quietly just watching what's happening across our state in terms of obviously the COVID numbers, as you all have as well, and as well as how other communities have been handling their events, particularly those communities that are hosting outdoor events. And I did just a bit of quick research and R&D yesterday and talked with one of our neighboring communities, which is in Baldwin County. Spoke with the Main Street director there, and they made a decision this week to cancel their major festival, their Deep Roots Festival, which is a multi-day festival involving multiple concerts or bands performing. I understand that Milledgeville, Baldwin County has like a 256% increase in their cases over the last 2 weeks, and they are like the hot spot for our region. And so due to that reasoning and for the safety of their staff and citizens and volunteers, they determined that they needed to cancel their First Friday events, which were open air outdoor events, as well as this concert. Everything has been canceled for their city and Main Street through November. So they've already gotten very proactive in doing that. And I believe I heard Eric mention something from the hospital CEO about him thinking that the numbers were going to go back up in December, and that was also a part of this discussion.
I think someone else made that.
Bob.
Thank you, Bob. You're behind me. Thank you. Thank you, Bob. And the director also mentioned that when she and I spoke on yesterday. Sandersville has canceled their major Kaolin Festival. There's a barbecue fest in a neighboring county that has been canceled. The city of Perry has canceled their Food Truck Fridays. And so these are just examples that I wanted to bring to you so that I wouldn't be speaking out of personal opinion, but having a reference of other communities around us. Now, Walton, Athens, we haven't heard anything from them in terms of canceling. Colleen's kind of been watching the AthFest out of Athens closely to see what's going to happen with that, but we just wanted to bring this before the council. And Colleen, I want to stop talking.
No, it's okay. I was going to say AthFest I've been watching closely because they had to postpone and delay it until this month, so they're scheduled for a weekend.
Can you pull in the mic, Colin?
Yes. I can come on my chair. How about that?
The mic can move, you know.
Okay. This one?
Yeah, that's
Is that better?
Thank you.
Okay, so looking at AthFest, they're an all-outdoor festival this year. There's no indoor activities at all, but still they have not changed their course at all. So we are just, I think we wanted to come today and just get some feedback from you.
So what's the only, what is it, Saturday night in the park? Is that the only thing?
Saturday in the park.
Is there, and there's no weddings, there's no rentals in there?
No, we don't have any rentals this month, do we?
We have a small 45-minute to hour-long ceremony maybe the second Saturday in September. And we do have a personal rental in October.
Okay, but that's really,
Class reunion.
but that's, they're taking their own, that's like enter at your own risk kind of thing, right? This, if it's not city sponsored, then
I think maybe, since we're all in this mall with our mask on, we know what this virus is doing to kids in school, to staff members in school. And just this week, my grandson was infected with it because of somebody else in the classroom. And, you know, so we have to just really take precautions. We've asked, all our city buildings are asked to wear masks, you know, so I think for the precaution of our community, I would like to see this event canceled, you know, just for safety's sake, and I'd like to get input from my other council members here as well, you know. It's a city function event, you know, so.
So the next large event is the Motown on the 18th?
Yes.
Right. And then next month is the chili cook-off.
Chili cook-off.
Right, is the-
And probably need to
Next
cancel, look
month
at
is-
both of them and cancel them both for this year to give the business notice, you know.
And just so that you know that we're We're just not trying to gung-ho cancel the events that we've done our due diligence and kind of considering other options. What other measures can we put in place for social distancing, which is pretty much almost difficult with a dance party.
Yeah.
And almost even with the street festival with Chili Cook-Off, just the closeness and interaction of guests and visitors. And also, we even discussed perhaps requiring either negative COVID tests or vaccination cards be presented, proof of vaccination be presented. And I discussed that option with Milledgeville. Did they consider that? And she said they had a full discussion about that, even specifically because their events are in a gated location with 5 gates, and they determined that it just was going to be impossible for them to man that, to have the manpower to man it properly, and they were not prepared for any public comment because of their decision to do so. So just wanted to share that with you also.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I'm not sure what it's worth, but Athens has been, I think, kind of ahead of the curve in trying to stay safe, but they went ahead with their Twilight Bike Race, which is just a madhouse up there of thousands of people. It is outdoors, but they are just packed in party time, and they had that, I believe it was 2 weeks ago.
Well, and then the football games are going to
And the
happen. I
football
mean,
games
I
are
don't know. I
scheduled.
mean, that's just going to
That'll be September 11th is
yeah.
the first home game.
So,
I'm not sure that means anything, but
Any other comments from my council?
I support what, I mean, you know, I think what is best.
I support them also. We need to lead by example.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know. If you go to any restaurants in town, they're full every day. I haven't been to the high school football game. I imagine there was a big crowd there. I think people can make a choice to go or not, and if they're concerned, they probably shouldn't. If they want to wear a mask, they can. I'm totally like the people you talk to in terms of requiring a proof of vaccination or something. I would not be opposed to that. In fact, I'd probably be more inclined to say cancel it before I would elect to do that. But, you know, I think people can choose for themselves whether to attend an outdoor event, right or wrong.
And it's
The Atlanta Braves are full every night when they're at home.
And it's tough. And I just look at, you got people coming here from different communities, you know, it's just not Madison, you know. It's just the safety precautions. I just, you know.
Mr. Mayor, I pretty well agree with you, Rick, on that. You can make the decision whether you want to go or not and take the proper precautions, wear a mask, do whatever you want to do, but, you know.
So do you have the manpower, Karen, to check cards if we went ahead with the events, if we wanted to check the vaccination cards? I mean, do we have manpower to check anything? Colleen?
I have volunteers set up for Saturday in the Park, but I don't think that's really a volunteer job. I think that's,
It kind of, and
It
you
could get a
could
little
get some people
dicey.
that are, I mean,
Absolutely.
I would be worried in this climate.
Okay, because we're saying keep the event. So Rick, you're thinking keep the event and let people decide whether they should want to come to the event or not?
That is my personal opinion.
Could we,
Mayor asked for opinions.
could
Right.
we
I'm just
enforce a
making
mask
sure.
mandate there? I mean,
I
like,
was gonna say-
for example, I mean, that's city property. I think the difference, and I see it, is that that's city property.
Yeah.
This is a city event. If
Right.
it was a private event, then I would say, you're right, but this is something
that's
that
how
we're
I-
sponsoring, and we're requiring everybody to wear a mask in City Hall. I mean, could we do it with a mask mandate? I mean, is that, I mean, you might have people push back on that too. I just don't want to put them in a situation where you get people saying, you're not going to tell me what to do. So either we need to do it your way, or we don't need to do it at all.
To your point, Councilman, this town park is Town Park is city property, and since we do have to wear masks inside of public buildings, that could certainly cross over to Town Park as well, and as well as COVID-19 signs being posted in terms of risk. And, you know, prior to this most recent spike, I stood very firm in talking with Colleen about, in terms of what Councilman Blanton was stating. I think it'll be fine, you know, people can determine if they want to come, you know, in just our conversations, I would say, you know, people can make their decision. Then when this most recent spike came, I guess upon school beginning back, it seems like that's when I think I kind of shifted a little bit. But I still do agree that people can determine their risk level. But-
And let's remind ourselves, schools are closing because of this. You know, schools are closing.
And last year,
because of this.
when you look at the schools' numbers from last year when they had the mask mandate, it's just dramatically different from this year when they did not enforce a mask mandate. So, I mean, maybe we just do it with the mask and just have, you know, you come in, you have to wear a mask, and if you, but I just hate to put that on you guys and your volunteers when there's gonna be people that are, you're gonna have to kick out because they don't have
And-
their mask
and-
on.
and
I mean,
Chris-
and that's a lot on volunteers.
They're gonna be in the park, they're not gonna keep those masks on in that park. I mean, that's just common sense, you know.
And I think checking verifications, that increases the chance of close interaction. It could be
It
even
does.
counterproductive, I think.
It does.
Are you making a recommendation to us, or are you just simply asking for our recommendation to you?
I think we're here to ask you what you feel, looking for advice.
Well, I think what these young ladies are here telling us this morning, that for safety's sake, let's cancel the event in the park. And I think we need to adhere to what they said to us this morning. They've looked at other communities and what other communities are doing, you know, and out of precautions, I would just urge this council to say, hey, let's cancel it.
How, when is the first event? Is the Saturday in the Park is what date?
A couple of weeks from
The
now.
18th.
So it's
18th,
just right at the
we
peak,
get
and that's what they're saying, the peak, FEMA's saying,
I
that is the peak
would
of it.
volunteer to man a checkpoint. I'll look at COVID cards. I'd love to do that. I'd love, that's a middle ground solution to say, if you thought enough to be safe and if you interact with the public, whether you required masks inside or not, I'll gladly do that. There have been festivals in very large cities where they did that. It's a way to do it. It's a way, if you want to say, reward people for what we think is more responsible behavior by getting in front of this thing, then do that. Say, thank you for getting vaccinated, come and enjoy this festival. If you hadn't, then stand along the fence. You know, I'm sorry. It's a way to have it both ways. But I would think, and we discussed this, Karen and Colleen and I discussed it, and typically the council has listened to staff's advice and listened to staff's recommendations on these things. And when we last year went through the same thought process about these festivals, we were about where we are in infections. I mean, it was about this serious. Why would we decide to do something this year that we wouldn't have done last year? It just doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
And this time, we're dealing with something that's more virulent, that passes much easier, and maybe
People
more
are getting
prevalent without us
sicker.
knowing.
They are. Let's face the fact.
So that's just me. I'd say if you want to do it, if you at least have your group that comes be protected. Or not do it.
The only thing I worry about is just the people that come that don't do that, and there's a fuss, and you've got volunteers and people that, I mean, you'll be the only muscle there, David.
We employ muscle all the time. We could have police officers.
Well, and I think.
Really,
I
Dave?
just
And what
don't-
you're
it's
trying to
not
protect-
in their job description for these ladies to
Yeah,
be
and you're
muscle.
trying to protect the city employees as well, you know. So I think we can make a good common sense judgment, you know, and say, you know, let's cancel this event for this year.
I don't think it's gotten into this was an event that's relatively new, and I don't think it's like it's not ingrained like chili cook-off is. I think we can cancel it and it not.
It is one of the more
It's got popular. It
events
was my
because of
event.
the
I
band,
created,
because
I love this
it's-
event.
Motown.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Yes,
is
it
the
is.
Motown, and that's been going
As
on for
most
years.
first-
No, Saturday in the Park is relatively new. This
Right,
was,
but it is Sounds of Motown.
Sounds of Motown, okay, well,
Motown
so,
is not gonna die, we could always invite it back.
that's,
Yeah, when the weather is, when it's safe.
so it will be bigger because of the
Right, it'll be
Motown,
bigger,
yeah.
Has the band weighed in on what, are they comfortable going ahead with it?
You
or-
know, the bands in general are all in because they haven't worked.
They need the money.
They haven't worked for a year, you know, they're just getting back to work.
Jesus.
Mm.
And I think a part of our point in terms of stewardship, dollars with our finances is making a decision early on so that for children cook-off in October, we can make decisions about contracts with bands, because there will be money lost if we take a short notice. Okay, have we already booked?
We've already booked. We've already booked.
So now,
Sounds of Motown's only 2 weeks out, I think, so I think that's a given. Any chili cook-off entertainers are probably flexible at this point, but Sounds of Motown is definitely not. You know, and chili cook-off might be a different situation from the perspective that they're not closed in the park.
Yeah, we could spread it out a little bit more, you take up that whole
Yeah.
street. That's
Yeah,
the,
and people wander in a way that they're not, you know, I'm just worried about the lawn
mhm.
at Sounds of Motown, you know, the tightness of it.
Are either one or both of you willing to give us your personal opinions
That's
about the
exactly what I
advisability
want to
going
know.
forward?
And don't be
or not?
ashamed, don't be afraid. We're
Yeah,
here to
I
support you.
would, yeah, I would like to know your personal opinion also, because I know you're here asking how we feel, but you guys will be actually at the event, whether we're there or not. So how do you
It's your safety
feel?
that's putting, yeah.
Yes.
Well, and I think that that is one of the points that I've sort of been trying to make, is the difference between Sounds of Motown, Saturday in the Park. Closed park, volunteers between you and the gate, and a lot of people crowded together. I'm not sure about the chili cook-off. You know, I do have chili teams asking me our protocol. You know, like, do they have to wear masks all day? They don't want to do that. Are we going to make them do that? So, I mean, that's another problem,
Yeah,
or another
it's
question.
tough.
Vendors and teams, is everyone responsible for themselves, or are we going to mandate that they have to wear a mask? So I guess I personally am feeling that Saturday in the Park is a little sketchy, a little dangerous, could easily turn the tides in Madison.
I do agree. I personally think Saturday in the Park should be canceled. I think Councilman Hines mentioned.
That's all we needed to hear.
We're just not prepared to begin questioning visitors to this to our town about presenting status to us. I'm not prepared personally to face off with people that are asking me, that is confident in how to handle what I do. I'm just at a margin and like that. I'm just not ready to make that stance just at this time. Not personally. So I'm recommending for Saturday in the Park to be canceled.
So, council member, they did what we've asked them to do. Can I just get a nod from this council to say we agree with you?
I agree.
Nick, go ahead with the
I
decision.
would defer to our staff.
Sure. So what now?
I would defer to what our staff has expressed. So I'm okay with the cancel.
With that.
I am also.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'm okay. I just expressed my opinion, but
Yeah.
my opinion, in a couple of bucks, you can get a cup of coffee. But where I feel a little bit, you know, we have this contract with Motown, right? And they've booked it here. And it's kind of like not getting a rent payment. You know, I mean, when these people book, do we owe them some financial money
We're
back?
already on the line to pay them at this time.
Say, I forgot my hearing aids, Karen.
We're already, with 2 weeks away from the event, we're already obligated with that contract.
To pay them?
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure that when we do something like that, that we take that obligation seriously
Absolutely.
and make sure,
And I mentioned that earlier, that we have a financial obligation that and we've spoken, Colleen's spoken with our sponsor, our event sponsor, who absorbs a great deal of that expense outside of the ticket sales that would come to support those expenses as well.
well, thank you. You probably did say that, but I did say I forgot my
No,
hearing
no
aids.
worries.
I don't have them in here.
No worries. Thank you for
Now,
that.
a quick question, do we still take the sponsorship money? Are they risking that? Or we won't take that, will we?
You know, I actually don't remember what we did. It was actually Main Street Vet then, too, 2 years ago or a year ago.
I would hope that we wouldn't have kept their money.
I don't think that we kept their money. I think it's on us. You know,
Yeah.
all the advertising we've done so far, and, yeah. But the band is different. The band, we have a contract with the band.
Absolutely, absolutely. So all the risk, the risk for cancellation and the expense of cancellation is on the people of Madison.
Yeah. Okay, there are no more questions for our staff. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time, and thanks for what you do as well.
It, just as clarity, there's been no decision yet on chili cook-off. We're gonna try to work through that. Spread it out, see what we can do.
Be creative.
Good.
Like, there's an opportunity for creativity on that one. And I'll help any way I can.
Thank you. Anything else to be discussed on our work session? If not, if we could get a motion to go into executive session to discuss litigation and personnel matters.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed is none.
And Mayor-
Anybody need to take a quick break?
Yeah.
Mr.
Okay.
Mayor, yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to run home and get my hearing aids, okay? Real quick.
Okay.
I mean,
Make it quick.
I'll make it quick, but I mean, I feel, I kept going like this. And that's the first time I've ever done it.